Okay, so today we'll talk about monitoring. So what is meant by monitor? Why we need to monitor? Okay, how we can monitor? So this we'll discuss. So for example, in Azure, you have many services, right? You have virtual machines and you have storage accounts and you have AKS clusters and you have networking components. Okay, so there are many components in Azure. For example, let's say virtual machines or app services or storage accounts. It could be anything, or AKS clusters. Okay, so there are many services in Azure. Okay, so each service will work individually. That's absolutely fine. For example, if you consider one component called virtual machine, so I selected virtual machine. Okay, so what is happening with the virtual machine? So basically it will run whatever the configuration you will create it and it will work. It's absolutely fine. But you want to know how much CPU it is consuming and you want to know how much memory it is consuming. Okay, so for a VM or app service, anything you can consider. Okay, so how much CPU it is consuming and how much memory it is consuming. So how many requests we are getting. Okay, how much time to respond that request or execution time. Okay, so what is the data coming, what is the data going. Okay, what are the HTTP response codes it is generating. Okay, or HTTP status code I can call it as. Okay, so some or what path they are accessing, path accessing or requested path, you can say path requested, or you can say uh, what is the remote or client IP you are receiving, from where exactly the requests are coming from, whether the requests are bots or any kind of user agents or like that. So all the data, so if you consider one simple request, so it consists of many data. Okay, if you know all these details, accordingly you can manage your website efficiently. For example, there is a web service for a website called xyz.com. Okay, so I hosted this xyz.com in app service. Okay, so if I not do all this stuff, if I not monitor all this stuff, what will happen? For example, on day one, this xyz.com is received a request of 1000 requests per day. It was received. Okay, so this app service itself has certain configuration. For example, it is P1v1 or P2v2. So it kind of a service, it has certain limitation for the resources. Okay, for example, it is using two virtual CPUs and for example 8 GB RAM. So it is what it is taking at the moment, for example. So if you host xyz.com on app service and if you receive 1000 requests per day, then this particular app service is capable enough, or this particular 2 virtual CPU or 8 GB RAM is capable enough to perform that request. What if 1000 requests will increase to 10,000 requests per day? Then does your app service capable enough to serve it? Okay, to know that actually for 1000 requests how much CPU and how much RAM it is consuming, so that you can forecast if we receive 10,000 requests, how much CPU, how much RAM we additionally needs to be added. So that is the data, and accordingly there is a website. If you observe the client IPs and all, so for example this xyz.com, where exactly the requests are coming from, originating from. For example, the country India is having more requests to the xyz.com, or UK is having more requests to the xyz.com. Then so that we can move our resources towards the data centers related to or nearby India and UK. so that accordingly you can plan or accordingly you can modify your step. So everything you need a data. Okay, everything, if you want to do anything na, you need a data. How you will get that data? When you will get data? When you keep an eye, then only you will get the data. Okay, when you monitor what is happening exactly, then only you will get the data. Okay, that's about monitoring. When you configure monitoring, so it will try to monitor all this stuff. Okay, that's about monitor. But here, whatever you see it, right, CPU consumption, memory consumption, request received, these are all individual entities, individual things, right? These individual things we used to call it as metrics. Okay, so these are called as metrics. We used to call them as metrics. Okay, so there are many metrics. So I just told you the generic one, the generic metrics, but the metrics will vary based on the resource. For example, it is database, then we can see how much data it is getting, how much data it is going, and what data exactly they are asking, and what data it is retrieving, how much time it is taking to retrieve, and what kind of query they are executing on the SQL. So it vary based on the resource. Okay, if you consider about the networking and which subnet the request is coming, which VNet the request is coming, which firewall the request is coming, or which remote IP address the request is coming, how much bandwidth it is taking. Okay, so all these stuff you can monitor by using network for virtual network. So same time for Kubernetes cluster also, which pod is consuming more, which pod is consuming less, which node is having high availability, which node is having overloaded. So okay, it depends on the resource. You have to define your metrics. Okay, by default Azure provides certain metrics. Okay, generic metrics. If you want, you can customize that metrics as well. Okay, how you can customize it, that I will explain it bit later. So if you consider about the metrics, these are the metrics. So if you observe the typical scenario called monitor, so what it exactly does, it will simply monitor the things whatever it is going, but it won't respond. It won't respond because you are simply giving an instruction that just monitor it. So it will monitor it, but you are not asking, okay, if something is happen, you can notify me. So you are not asking here. You are only saying that monitor. Okay, I will monitor. It will just monitor. That's it. But I want to know if something is happen with the CPU consumption, then you just alert me. Or if something is happened with memory consumption, then alert me. Or if something is happened with request received, then alert me. So for that, you need to define alerts. You need to define alerts. So based on the alert you define, it will alert you. Okay, so what you exactly define inside the alert. Okay, so for whatever the alert you need to define, you must have one condition, right? You must define one threshold, then only it will alert you. For example, there is a CPU. So when you want me to alert you, it will ask. Then you can say that, okay, if the CPU percentage or CPU consumption is greater than 80 percentage, okay, it's a greater than 80 percentage, then you can alert me. Okay, this we used to consider as threshold. Okay, this we used to call it as threshold. So based on the threshold you defined, okay, you can configure an alert. Okay, this is about alert and this is about threshold. Okay, so to configure an alert, what is the primary prerequisite you required? You need one threshold and you need one metric. On which metric you want to configure an alert? So you need to define a metric, and based on the metric you need to define that threshold. Okay, that's absolutely fine. So you are saying that if the CPU percent is greater than 80 percentage, then alert me. So how I can alert? What is your expectation? You want me send a message, or you want me send a mail, or you want me to perform any action without notifying you? So what kind of actions you required? So that actions you need to define under action groups. Okay, here I can send mail or send SMS, or so I will talk about these two first. So if the alert, that is the metric CPU or anything you can consider, if the CPU is greater than 80 percentage, then I can trigger this action group. What I specified in the action group? Send mail. If I select send mail, what it will do? It will try to send a mail to you. If you select send SMS, it will trigger an SMS to you. It's absolutely fine. Now, I don't want a mail or I don't want SMS. You don't need to notify me. I want to perform one action on this CPU is greater than 80%. That action is, for example, if the CPU is greater than 80%, then I need to increase my app service configuration from 2 to 4 virtual CPUs, 8 to 16 GB RAM, or you can keep it RAM as it is, or you can increase only CPU. So whatever action I want to perform, I need to execute certain script. I want to execute certain script or certain thing. That also it is possible with action group. Here also you can configure one script execution. That script you can keep it in a run book, or you can keep it at somewhere that you can trigger by using webhook. Okay, it's up to you. So there are certain possibilities we have when an alert is triggered. What kind of action you want me to perform? Okay, that is comes under action groups. Okay, there is one more thing to talk about, that is called alert rules. The same, whatever the individual alert you are configuring, right, you can configure same in alert rule. This alert rule you can utilize for any resource. So for example, if you configure individual alert on a specific resource, then the same alert you need to configure on another resource also. Instead, if you configure alert rule, the same alert rule you can utilize on Azure VM level, or else you can use in some XYZ resource level also. That is about alert rule. So these are the alerts, these are the alert rules, and these are the action groups, and this is what meant by threshold, and this is what meant by metric. Okay, so this is the overall typical scenario for monitor. Okay, along with this monitor, we have few more concepts, that is called insights. Okay, so what is meant by insights? Insights means it's an in-depth analysis of each resource. For example, along with monitor, in the monitor, what is the possibility you have? You only have the possibility to define the metric. So only this metric will perform, and this metric will store that particular one, and you can see it later also. That's absolutely fine. Along with that, I want to see what service or what request is causing more CPU. I want to see what service or what request is consuming, or what application is consuming more memory. Okay, so to dig more or to do in-depth analysis, so whatever the request I received, how it is performing, so where exactly it is lacking, which code it is using, so all the in-depth analysis you will get it under insights. Okay, this insights also varies based on the resource. If it is VM, then we have VM insights. If it is app service, you have application insights. If it is network, you have network insights. Okay, so based on the resource you have, or if it is a Kubernetes cluster, you have container insights. Okay, so based on the resource you have, you need to configure respect to insights for that resource, so that it will give you in-depth analysis of the backend service. It could be app service or network or VM or anything. Okay, this is about insights. And okay, you said that okay, you will monitor all this stuff, like for example, if you consider app service, I can monitor CPU, memory, request, response, everything I wish to monitor, and it's absolutely fine. Now, if you talk about the individual entity like app service, what I am saying that you just monitor CPU, memory, on request and all this stuff, and you can alert me if something is happened. It's absolutely fine. Now, if I want to analyze, if I want to go back and I want to see what is happening, okay, where you can see that, okay, you just land to app service, and then you can check it. Or if you have a virtual machine, just go to the virtual machine and you have a monitor section, there only you can see it. If you have a Kubernetes cluster, there also you have a monitor section, there only you can see it. So if you want to see the monitor data, where exactly you will see it under the respective resource only. But I want to monitor on a centralized place by using a centralized location. That centralized location is called monitor. So this monitor is available on individual resource as well as separate entity. if you configure monitor on individual resources, altogether you can track that monitoring under the specific monitor part in Azure. Okay, that we will see now. So if you want to configure a monitor, first you need to come to your Azure. You can take any resource. For example, let's say I have an app service. If you come to the app service, then there is a section called monitoring. If you see, there is a section called monitoring. Okay, if you go for any resource, not only app service, it could be VM, it could be storage, it could be Kubernetes cluster, any resource in Azure, you have an option called monitoring. So here exactly you need to monitor, or you need to configure your monitoring. Okay, if you consider what is exactly it is monitoring, then you can see metrics. Okay, metrics I told you. So what kind of metrics available for my app service? See, average memory working set. So this is one of the metric. And connections, how many connections I am receiving, this is one of metric. And CPU, how much CPU it is consuming, this is one of my metric. And how much data I am getting in, okay, and how much data I am getting out, okay, and how much file system storage I am file system I am utilizing. Okay, so these are the data basically available in metrics. Okay, for example, if the file system usage is greater than some 20 bytes or 20 MB or 2 GB or 4 GB or something, then you want to notify me in that scenario. If you want, you can configure alert rule from here itself, or you can come to your alerts and you can configure from there itself. So if you want to configure any alerts, you need to come to alerts part. There you have three options. One is alert rule and alert action group and alert processing rule. So what are they? Why we need to use them? We'll see one by one. For example, if you go to alert rule, I want to configure an alert rule. So scope is nothing but it is applies to only on this particular resource level. Okay, only this particular alert what we are creating is meant to the app service only. So if you go to the condition, I need to select which metric you want to set an alert. For example, you want to monitor CPU, or you want to monitor memory, or you want to monitor response time or request or anything. You need to select the available signal. For example, I want to configure by using response time. So if the response time is greater than so and so or less than so and so, then you can alert me. Okay, if you select the response time or something, here it is asking the logic. So here actually we need to specify the condition. Okay, whether you want to go for dynamic based condition or you want to go for static based condition, it's up to you. First we'll discuss about dynamic. What is meant by dynamic? So if you see the dynamic, by default it will consider some thresholds. Okay, by default in the backend they is to consider some thresholds. It will monitor for certain time and it will average it. Okay, it will average it. If that average is greater than or if the average is less than, then it will alert you. But I don't want use dynamic. I know how much time it want to respond, so I have to specify the specific time. Then in that scenario you need to choose static one. If you select static one, then again aggregation type it will come. If the average response time is greater than 2 seconds, okay, the average of response time greater than 2 seconds, then you can alert me. No, I don't want to go for average. I want to go for minimum, or I want to go for maximum, or I want to go for total or count. It's up to you. Okay, it's all the calculation. So if you select average, what it will do, it will monitor for some time and it will average it. For first time it is taking 2.5, for second time it is taking 1.5, for third time it is taking 2. So it will average that, and if you consider that average, if the average is greater than 2 seconds, then it will alert you. If you want to say minimum, so what it will do, if any point of time, if this threshold is greater than 2, then immediately it will notify. It won't average it. So always try to use average one, so that sometimes some fluctuations may happen, but immediately they will get down. That's why you need to average it. Okay, so if you select the average one, and operator, if you want to go for low, select greater than or less than or equal to, or greater than or equal to, so those kind of operators you have. If you want, you can select it accordingly. And based on the condition you selected, you can see in the right side like what is the actual consumption you are having and what is the threshold you have set. If this blue color line reaches to this place, then it will alert you. Okay, it will show you. If you confuse here, it will show you here. Next, split by dimensions. For example, if you are using app service, or if you are using storage account, or if you're using application gateway, or if you're using virtual machine or anything, if those are having backend instances, because these are PaaS services, if you have a backend instances, if you want to go for a instance wise, I want to only monitor for this particular one instead of all. In that scenario, you have to choose this dimension. So for this app service, the available dimension is instance only, the backend instance. So at the moment it is running on one instance, it will show you that instance name. This is the actual instance name. Okay, if you have a 5 instances running in app service, it will show you that 5 instances. If you want, you can monitor that specific instance only. Okay, that condition also you can specify it. And next, when to evaluate this condition. So if you want to evaluate for every 1 minute, you want to evaluate for every 2 minutes, every 5 minutes, every 1 hour, every half an hour, or every day, that you can define under here. So whenever it is validating, how much time or at what point of time I need to go back and I need to calculate it. So if you check for every 1 minute, if look back period is 5 minutes, means at the moment time is 10 o'clock, I will check from 9:55 to 10. Last 5 minutes I will check. Okay, in this last 5 minutes, if something is go beyond the logic which I specified or condition I specified, then it will alert me. So that look back period is nothing but that. Okay, if you want, you can configure multiple conditions also, it's up to you. Okay, and then click on action. So I specified the condition. Okay, if it met that condition, what kind of action I want to perform. So to specify the action, you first create one action group. So there you need to create one action group. I'll create one action group by saying that, okay, so this action group I am creating in the regional level, so that this particular action group can be utilized for any of the resource in your subscription. Okay, so for example, action group I want to use like send mail to team. So this is the action group I want to specify. So send mail to team. This is the display name I want to set. Okay, only 12 characteristics it is allowing, but let it be. Okay, and then go to the next notification. So here it is asking, okay, if the alert is triggered and you are setting one action group, in this particular action group, you want me to send or you want me to notify, and which way? You want to notify me by a mail, or you want me notify me a SMS, text SMS, or a voice mail? It is asking that. You need to select the notification type. If you select email Azure Resource Manager role, so what is meant by it? If this particular app service having owners, contributors and all, I don't want to specify entire team, only I want to notify who is the owner of this app service or who is the contributor of this app service. Only for that particular privileged roles the person's having, only it will send that notification to that privileged persons. That roles you can see it here. Okay, if you want to select only owners, so that it will notify only owners of this app service. If you select contributor, only contributors get notified. Similarly for reader and monitoring contributor and monitor reader. If you want, you can configure in this way, or else I don't want to go for role based one, I want to go for a generic one, then you can select email, SMS, push or voice message. If you see here, if you select email, you need to provide your email ID. So which email ID you want to send it. Okay, it could be your mail ID or team distribution list or team DL or anything. You can specify your mail ID. No, along with email, I want to send notification via SMS also. Yes, you can specify it. You can specify your country code. You can specify your phone number, so that that particular SMS will be received. Azure account email. For example, you have installed Azure mobile app in your mobile. If you want to send to that mobile app also, you can send it. Or if you want to send a voice message also, you can send it. It's up to you. Okay, so enable a common alert schema, like the alert message, what you know, right? That message format you want to send it, or you want to customize it. It's up to you. Okay, once you click on OK, so I have not provided mobile number. For now, I'll keep only mobile, sorry, email, let it be. So for this notification type, I want to type one name for this. Okay, so this is the notification I am going to use. So this is only for notification purpose, but actually we are creating for action group. Along with notification, along with notifying the people, you want me to perform any action. Okay, I'm just notifying you. Okay, but I'm not waiting for you to come and work on that or fix on that. By default, I am setting some fixes, or by default I'm setting some run books or a scripts. So whenever there is an alert triggered, you go and directly execute that script. That particular things you need to define under actions. So what kind of action I want to perform? You want to execute an automation runbook, or you want to execute an Azure function, or you want to execute an event hub, or you want to execute an ITSM, or you want to execute a logic app or secure webhook or webhook. What kind of things you want to perform, that you need to select, and respect to things you need to select from there. If you select automation runbook, under which automation account, under which runbook I want to run it, I need to select that runbook and I need to choose that, so that it will execute that during that particular time. So this you need to define under actions part. Okay, and then you need to specify your tags, and then you need to specify, just go to review and click on create, so that your particular rule along with the action group gets created. So you can see this action group is created now. Okay, now we are back to the rule. Okay, when the condition met, then it will execute this particular action. This action contains send mail to so and so team. That's it. And go to the details. You can specify your details for this alert rule. If the condition triggered, if the rule is matched, while sending this notification or while sending this message, how I need to consider this. It is a critical alert, or it is an informational alert, or error alert, or warning alert, or debug alert, or verbose alert. You need to specify the alert type or severity. Okay, if I feel that that is a critical, you can set it as a critical. So whenever there is an alert triggered, it will show it as a critical alert. Okay, and then you can specify your rule name, like response time. I am response time monitor. This is the rule I am typing. Okay, and if you want to specify, you can specify your description for this particular rule, what exactly it does and all this stuff. But anyway, it's optional, and you have advanced options also, like you can specify along with this rule, along with this alert, you want to send any more tags or any more things, that you can specify it here. For example, environment, I can say it is a dev. So along with that, it will send this alert also. Okay, and yes, enable upon creation. Whenever you create an alert rule, automatically it will be enabled, and if something is, if the condition whatever is met, automatically it will go and resolve the alert. Okay, if the response time is below 2 seconds, obviously it will go and get resolved it. That's it. And click on tags and click on review and create, and then it will review your alert rule, and it will create your alert rule. So this way you can create an alert rule and an action group along with alert rule. So we saw that how to create an alert rule and how to create an action group. Now we'll see what is meant by alert processing rule. If you see the name itself, alert processing rule, you configured an alert. Okay, but when I need to process that alert, while processing it, what kind of actions I need to do, that you need to define under alert processing rule. If you click on alert processing rule, the scope is this app service level, and here I need to specify the condition to process that rule. For example, I wish to specify certain condition. If I select alert condition, like whatever the condition you specified in alert, if that alert condition matches, okay, fired means if that condition is fired, okay, in that particular scenario, you want me to suppress this, or you want me to apply the action group. Okay, so what is meant by suppress? I know the alert will trigger, but I don't want to keep that alert triggered. I want to suppress, I want to ignore that, I want to suppress that. In that scenario, you need to create one alert processing rule. There you are specifying that I know I configured one alert. If that alert is fired, just ignore it, just suppress it. Okay, that you are specifying. Or else you can use apply action group. If that particular alert is triggered, if you want, you can specify action group in that alert itself. Or else, if you are not configured their action group in that particular scenario, from here also you can add your action group. So whatever the action group we created over there, that will appear here. You can select that action group from here itself. So this, while creating the alert itself, if you want, you can configure your action group from there itself, or else you can configure your alert process. You can configure that action group in alert processing rule as well. It's up to you. Okay, if you want to schedule that part alert, if you want, you can run it always. No, I want to run at a specific time. You can run it in a specific time, or I want to run it in a recurring mode. Okay, then you can specify recurring mode every Monday, every Tuesday, every Wednesday, every Thursday, or all days a month, from starting time or starting ending time. So everything you need to specify it. Okay, or else you can keep always, so that it will always run, always execute that alert. Okay, and then you need to specify your details for this alert processing rule. So what is the rule name, alert processing rule you are creating. Okay, and you need to specify description for that. Yes, I want to enable this alert processing rule upon creation, and then tags you can specify, and then review, and then create, so that this particular alert processing rule will be created. So this way you can create an action group, and alert rule and alert processing rule. But many of the times we'll use alert rule and action group. The reason why we need to use alert processing rule is sometimes there are common actions for some alert. Okay, instead of specifying all the individual actions on the individual alerts, we will do it under alert processing rule. So we can select that alert rule, what kind of rules you want to specify, and you can specify the respect to action group. There are many conditions in the alert processing rule. If you see that, if you go to the filters, if you want, you can set up by using alert rule ID, alert rule name, or description based, or monitor service based, or resource based, or resource group type, or severity based, or signal type. It's up to you. If you select the signal type, it will select based on the metric. Okay, based on the metric, or based on the log, or anything you specified, or based on the health also you can trigger it. So there are many options. If you want, you can explore it based on how I need to connect the alert processing rule. So this way you can create your alert processing rules and alert rules and action groups. So once you created all this stuff, then it will try to monitor the things, and it will try to alert you. The next one is metrics, as I showed you. So these are the available metrics on the respective resource. Okay, here you can see it, what is the CPU time it is utilizing, and what is the data input you are getting, what is the connection count, everything you can see it under this metrics part. And now, so you are saying that you are monitoring here, it's absolutely fine, and if something is happened, you need to notify me based on the alert, it's absolutely fine. Now I want to store this data, this monitor data, to review it later. Okay, to review it later, I want to store it. How you can store it, where you can store it, that you need to configure under diagnostic settings. Okay, you need to come to diagnostic settings, and here you need to set up the diagnostic setting. Okay, so add diagnostic setting. Here it will ask you the diagnostic setting name and what kind of data you want to store, or you want to send it to some other place. Okay, those are the data available here. If you want to send only HTTP logs, you can send it, or only app service logs, you can send it, or application logs, you can send it. So this way you can select all your logs, or else I can specify all metrics, so that it will send all the metrics. Along with metrics, I want to send logs also, you can send up to you. Okay, it will keep preserve this logs data also. You can select whatever you want. Yes, you selected the data which you want to send. Now where I need to send, this is the destination details. At the moment it is giving 4 options. If you want, you can send your logs to the log analytic workspace. What is meant by this log analytic workspace, I will discuss now. Okay, so what is meant by this log analytic workspace? So log analytic workspace is nothing but it's a centralized location. Okay, it is a centralized location to store your, it's a centralized location to store logs and analyze them using Gusto query language. So why you need to do that, what is the meaning, and why you need to require? I'll tell you an example. For example, at the moment where you are into the app service. So if you store these logs in the app service itself, you want to analyze, where you need to come, you need to come to this app service and you need to analyze. If you store logs of virtual machine, then you need to go to the virtual machine, there you need to analyze. So instead of logging into the each and every resource, I need to log into one particular place, and from that place I can query all the resources. It could be app service, it could be the VM or network or firewall, storage or anything. I can analyze, I can query from that centralized location. That particular place we used to call it as log analytics workspace. Okay, if you see the name itself, log analytics workspace. On this workspace we used to analyze our logs, okay, by writing the Gusto query language queries. Okay, so with this you can able to do that. So if you see the typical scenario, this is your resource. and this is your resource, and this is your resource, and this is your resource. For example, this resource we used to call it as VM, and this is your app service, and this is your storage, and this is your AKS cluster or anything you can consider. So how you can send your logs? You can send your logs by configuring diagnostic settings. So with the help of diagnostic setting only, we will send the logs from the respective resource to this log analytic workspace. Okay, what is the connection we used to call it as, or what is the thing we need to use to send the logs to log analytic workspace? This is called diagnostic setting. So by using this setting, we can send our logs from particular resource to log analytic workspace. So that is the option we are seeing here. If you want to send a logs to log analytic workspace, so you need to create your one log analytic workspace, and you need to select that log analytic workspace so that it will go your logs to that particular log analytic workspace. This is the option it is giving. Along with that, it is also giving an option archive to storage account. I don't want to send to log analytic workspace, or I want to send logs to log analytic workspace. Along with that, I want to store these logs in a storage account. Yes, you can do that. You need to select your storage account so that it will send your logs to that particular storage account. And if you want to send it to the event hub, or you want to send it to the any third party solutions, that partner solutions, you can send it. It's up to you. Okay, but as an organization, basically they will prefer to use log analytic workspace or storage account or event hub. They will not use for partner solution. If there is any specific thing, then you can utilize this option as well. So this way you need to send, or you need to configure your diagnostic setting so that these logs will be go and stored in log analytic workspace. Okay. Now if you save it, it will save and it will create one diagnostic setting for your app service, so that it will try to send logs to that particular log analytic workspace. That logs, if you want to analyze that logs, either you can directly search for log analytics workspace, it will take you to that place, or else from the resource itself, if you see the logs part, if you click on the logs, it will take you to the log analytic workspace. Okay, it will give you some default queries as well if you want to execute. Okay, so if you, I will close this. If you see here you have the tables stored, and here you have the default queries as well. And if you want, you can see the default functions if you have any. Okay, for example, I have a table. The data is stored in tables. For example, I want to query app service audit logs, or I want to query Azure metrics. Simply double click it, so it will come Azure metrics. Here you can specify the query. You can write your query. I want to query all the things, then you can run Azure metrics, so that it will give you the Azure metrics data. Okay, this way it will give you the data. Or else I don't know about the queries, I'm a bit confused about the queries, then you can select the queries. If you click on queries, here it will show you all this stuff. If you want to go for audit logs, or if you want to go for the Azure metrics, here if you click on it, if you want to check line chart of response times, if you double click on that, the query will be loaded here. Okay, so existing one is loaded, so I'm removing that existing part. Okay, so I'm only running this part. Okay, the query, so you have not written this query is I fetched from the queries itself. So what it is doing, from the Azure metrics table it is going, and it is extending the time for what time you required, and it is summarizing the result and sort by and render the time chart. So based on this, it will give you the respective output. So if you want, see, this is the output. So this is the customized queries. By default they have certain queries. If you want, you can customize your query accordingly, and you can run that query. And it is giving one more option. Not only by, if you want to set an alert, not only by using metrics, if you want, you can set an alert based on the query also. So this is the query. For example, every time I want to execute this query, and if something is breaks down, I want to notify, yes, you can create an alert rule. You see here, by executing this query itself, you can try to create an alert rule based on that query. If you click on that, the custom log set, the queries came here. Okay, based on this query, it will send an alert. Okay, so if you want, you can configure in that way also, or else if you want, you can configure on the available metrics also. It's up to you. You can save this query, or you can share this result, or you can export this result. Okay, you can pin to your dashboard also. If you have any dashboards, If you want to pin this query, yes, you can pin this query to the dashboard also if you have a Grafana or anything. Okay, that is about logs part. And advisor recommendations, it is similarly to this particular one, defender for cloud or something. It will try to advise, or it will try to advise something based on the configuration you have. For example, TLS should be updated or managed identity should be used in web apps. It is showing certain recommendations. If you want, you can use it, or if you want, you can ignore them. And then health check of your app service, so it will try to check the health configuration of your app service. If you enable it, it will show you, but at the moment I disable it. That is the reason it is not showing. So how many instances you have, that many instances it is having right now. So if you configure health check, based on that it will show you healthy or not healthy. That health configuration you can configure on the app service. Okay, so here it will show you health check is configured or not configured. I have not configured, that is right. At the moment it is unable to fetch the health status. Okay, that is about health check. And then application insights. So if it is app service, you have application insights. If it is Kubernetes cluster, you have container insights. If it is network thing, you have a network insights. Okay, if it is VM, you have VM insight. Like insights is nothing but in-depth things. So here you can see the in-depth things, whatever you have. If you click on the application insights here, it will take you to the application insights. Here it will show you the in-depth analysis. You can investigate it. Okay, you can search live metrics, how it is responding, how it is giving, everything you can check in the live metrics itself. Okay, and you have a transaction set. For example, if someone tried something and it got failed, you have that details. If you have that transaction details, just put this transaction details so that it will give you that complete analysis of the transaction. So you can query end-to-end analysis here. Okay, you can verify the availability, you can verify the failures of this app service, or you can verify the performance, how it is performing, and everything you will get it under this application insights part. Okay, again this will vary from resource to resource. If it is app service, you have like this. For network, it will show you the different metrics and different kind of transactions and all this stuff. Okay, that you can get it under the respective application insights and all this stuff. Now I want to go for the particular app service again, and okay, and diagnostic settings we discussed. And this particular app service log is only for app service, like what kind of traffic I'm getting, what kind of request I'm getting, and where it is getting. So all this stuff you will get it under app service logs. If you see application logging, if you want, you can enable it in the file system itself. It will show you only error logs or warning logs or information log or web verbose. It's up to you. Okay, if you want to store it in a blob storage, if you enable it, it will ask you the storage container details. If you want, you can disable it. It's up to you. Web server logging also. So it is application logging, it's a web server logging. Whatever the traffic you are receiving, if you want to store it on the file system, it's absolutely fine. How many days I want to store it and how much data I want to store it, or else I want to store it in the storage account, you can store it in the storage account also. Okay, but this particular option will give in only for app service, not for other things. Okay, and log stream, if you want to stream the logs, whatever the incoming logs you are getting, that you can stream it on the screen itself. What request I am receiving, what request it is going, that you can stream it into the log stream section. Okay, at the moment I have switched off here, that is the reason I'm not getting. If you enable it, you can see the live traffic from here itself. Okay, that's about monitoring. And these are the common things like alerts, metrics, logs, recommendations, so and diagnostic settings. These 4 or 5 things are common for every resource. Okay, for example, if you go to the virtual machine itself, okay, and if you go to the monitoring part, you see here you have insights, not application insights, you have insights here. Again, if you go to the insights, it will show you all this stuff. Okay, I have not enabled it. If you click on enable, it will enable it and it will show you all these things. And you can see, if you want, you can configure alerts also from here, and you can see the metrics related to this virtual machine, how much CPU it is consuming, how much memory it is consuming, how much data disk it is consuming, D drive, or so on all this stuff. We need to specify what are the things you want to configure, that you can check it and you can see it. Okay, all the data. And diagnostic setting, you can configure it for your virtual machine. And you have a log section also. It will take you to the log analytic workspace. And then the workbooks. What is meant by workbook? It's a very important thing. Workbook is nothing but whatever the metrics you are seeing, right? Every metric by default have certain backend query. Okay, based on the query only, it will show you like this. That backend queries will be written in the workbook. Okay, that will be written in the workbook. By default, it will give you the default workbook. and it will always allow you to create new workbook also. If you want, I can create a new workbook. I can write my customized queries. Okay, add query, add metric, add group, anything. If you want, you can add it. I want to add a query. Yes, this query you can add it, and this query is comes under this metrics part. So if you want to add a new metric to the existing one, you can add it by configuring the workbook. So everything has dedicated query, data disk bandwidth, everything. Okay, that query you can write it under the workbooks. If you want, you can use default ones. If you want to write your customized one, you can add that in the workbook section also. So this is about monitoring.